The first thing she felt was the cold. Rain lashed against her skin, sharp as needles, soaking through her clothes. She gasped awake, her body screaming in protest as she pushed herself up from the muddy ground. Her head throbbed, a dull, insistent ache that pulsed with every heartbeat. She touched her temple and winced. Blood. Where am I? The forest around her was a tangle of shadows, the trees swaying ominously in the storm, no street lights, no signs, just an endless stretch of dirt road disappearing into the darkness. She shivered, wrapping her arms around herself. Something crinkled in her pocket. A note. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. 2 words scrawled in frantic handwriting. Run, now. A chill that had nothing to do with the rain slithered down her spine. Before she could process it, headlights cut through the night. A car rolled to a stop beside her, tires crunching over gravel. The door swung open, and a man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, his face half hidden beneath the brim of his hat. A sheriff's badge glinted on his coat. "Easy there, miss," he said, voice gruff but not unkind. "You all right?" She opened her mouth to answer, but nothing came out, because the truth was, she didn't know. She didn't know who she was. She didn't know where she was. Her name, her past, it was all just gone. The sheriff studied her, his flashlight beam flickering over her face. "You're hurt," he muttered. Then into his radio, "Dispatch, I've got a Jane Doe out on Hollow Creek Road. Looks confused, maybe concussed." Static crackled in response. He helped her into the patrol car, the warmth of the heater a stark contrast to the freezing rain. But even as the numbness faded from her fingers, the dread in her stomach only grew heavier. Because something was wrong, she just didn't know what yet. The police station was small, dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and old paper. The sheriff, Carter, his name tag read, handed her a blanket and a cup of water. "You remember anything yet?" he asked. She shook her head, gripping the cup tighter. The reflection in the water was hers, pale face, dark hair, wide, frightened eyes, but it felt like staring at a stranger. Then the door burst open. A man stood there, breathless, rain dripping from his coat. The moment he saw her, his face crumpled with relief. "Oh, thank God, Mary." She flinched. "Mary?" The man rushed forward, dropping a stack of papers onto the desk, a driver's license, a birth certificate, photographs, all with her face, all with a name she didn't recognize. "Baby, I've been looking for you for hours," he said, voice breaking. You vanished after a fight. I was so scared." She stared at him, her pulse roaring in her ears. He looked familiar, but no, that wasn't right. Because in the photograph he just handed her, the woman who was supposed to be her reflection was blurred. The sheriff cleared his throat. "She shook up, Daniel. Maybe let the doc check her first." Daniel's expression darkened. "She's my wife, Carter." Something in his tone made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. The drive to their house was silent, the only sound the rhythmic thump of windshield wipers. Daniel kept glancing at her, his fingers tapping the steering wheel. "Why do you keep calling me Mary?" she finally asked. He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Sweetheart, that's your name." The radio crackled to life, a burst of static cutting through the tension, then a whisper. "Don't go with him." Daniel's hand shot out, slamming the radio off. His knuckles were white. "Just rest," he said tightly. "We're almost home." She turned to the window, watching the trees blur past, but in the glass, for just a second, she could have sworn she saw something behind her, watching, waiting. The sheriff's voice echoed in her mind as they pulled up to the house, his words muttered under his breath as they'd left the station. "Better hope she don't remember, Danny boy." And as the front door creaked open, swallowing them into the dark, she knew, deep in her bones, that whatever was waiting inside was so much worse than the storm. The house smelled like old wood and something else, something faintly sweet, like rotting flowers. Daniel flicked on the lights, revealing a home that looked like it had been pulled from a magazine. Too perfect, too still. "Welcome home," he said, smiling. But the longer I stood there, the more wrong it felt. The family photos on the wall, smiling faces, vacations, holidays, none of them sparked a single memory. And when I looked closer, the edges of the pictures seemed blurred, like they were fading away. Daniel guided me to the bedroom, his hand warm on my back. "You should rest," he murmured. "It's been a long night." But the moment he left, I was on my feet. The house creaked around me as I crept down the hallway. A grandfather clock ticked in the living room, each second too loud, too slow. I paused at a door, the basement. The handle was cold, the lock rusted shut. From behind it came a sound. Scratching, like fingernails dragging against wood. My breath caught. Then, thud. Something hit the door from the other side. I stumbled back, heart hammering. That's when I saw it. A newspaper clipping taped to the fridge. "Local woman missing, 20 years ago, today." The face in the photo was mine. The old woman next door watched me through her kitchen window. When our eyes met, she didn't smile, just pressed a wrinkled finger to her lips. "Be quiet." That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Daniel's breathing was steady beside me. Too steady, like he wasn't asleep at all. Then the whispers started. Not from outside, from inside the wall. "You're not supposed to be here," they hissed. "You're not her." I pressed my hands over my ears, but the voices only grew louder. "He's done this before. You'll be next." And then, clear as day, "Check under the bed." The wood floor was icy against my knees as I lowered myself to look. At first, nothing. Then, a glint of metal. I reached out, my fingers closing around a locket. Inside, a tiny photo. 2 girls, twins. One was me. The other was also me. But the inscription on the back made my blood run cold. "To Mary, from your sister. Don't forget what he did to us." My fingers trembled as I clutched the locket. The face of my supposed twin sister stared back at me, identical down to the mole beneath her left eye. Our left eye. The whispers in the walls had gone silent. Daniel still hadn't moved. I needed to get out. The house groaned as I crept down the hallway, each step deliberate. The grandfather clock read 3:17 a.m., its pendulum swinging too slowly, as if time itself were sick here. The basement door loomed ahead. The lock was rusted, but the hinges, those were new, recently replaced. A crowbar leaned against the wall nearby, like it had been left there just for me. I didn't stop to wonder why. The first swing sent a shock up my arms. The second made the wood splinter. On the third strike, crack, the door swung open, revealing darkness so thick it felt alive. The smell hit me first. Copper, rot, and beneath it, the same cloying sweetness from before. I grabbed a flashlight from the shelf. The beam cut through the black, illuminating concrete stairs, slick with something dark. Not water, blood, old stains, new ones, too much to belong to just one person. The basement was a nightmare. Polaroids covered the walls, dozens of them, all women, all with my face, some smiling, some screaming, dates scrawled beneath each one, stretching back decades, 1987, 1993, 2001. The most recent was taken last week, and in the center of the room, a chair, stained leather straps dangling from the arms, a single strand of dark hair still caught in one buckle. That's when I heard it. A wet, ragged breath. Not mine. The beam of my flashlight jerked toward the corner and landed on her. A woman, naked, bruised. Her face. My face. She lunged. "You have to run," she screamed, her voice raw. "He's coming back. He always comes back." Her fingers dug into my arms as she shoved something into my hand. A key. The sheriff's truck. "Go, now!" Footsteps thundered above us. The basement lights flickered on. And there, at the top of the stairs, Daniel. But not the Daniel from before. This one's skin rippled, his smile stretching too wide, his teeth too sharp. "Oh, Mary," he sighed, stepping forward. "We were having such a nice time." The woman behind me let out a sob. "Please," she whispered, "don't let him put me back in the chair." The key burned in my palm as I stared up at Daniel. No, not Daniel. Not anymore. His body twisting like a reflection in warped glass. Bones cracked as he descended the stairs, his limbs stretching too long, his mouth splitting into a grin that showed rows of needle teeth. "You always fight," he sighed, voice dripping with something between pity and hunger. "That's what I love about you." The woman behind me, my face, my eyes, shoved me toward the stairs. "Go!" I ran. Up the stairs, through the kitchen, past photos of women who looked just like me, smiling from frames. The front door loomed ahead, locked. Daniel's laughter echoed down the hall, wet and gurgling. "Where would you even go, Mary?" The key. The sheriff's truck. I sprinted for the back door. The night air hit me like a slap. Rain still fell, turning the yard to mud. And there, parked beside the rotting shed, Sheriff Carter's pickup truck. But the sheriff wasn't inside. He was on the ground. His uniform was torn, his throat a ragged mess. And in his dead hand, a revolver. Daniel's voice carried through the rain, sing-song and mocking. Poor Bill. He finally remembered what happened to his real daughter. I grabbed the gun just as the back door exploded off its hinges. Daniel stood there, his true form fully revealed, a towering mass of glistening flesh and too many joints. His face now just a gaping hole lined with teeth. "You're not Mary," he crooned, "but you'll do." I raised the gun, fired. The bullet tore through his chest. He staggered back and laughed. "Oh, sweetheart," he chuckled, the wound already stitching itself closed. "Haven't you figured it out yet?" The ground beneath me trembled. The house's windows shattered as a chorus of screams erupted from inside. Dozens of voices, all mine. And from the trees, shadows began to move. Silhouettes. Women. All with my face. All reaching for me. The gun trembled in my hands as the shadows closed in. Dozens of them, all wearing my face, their hollow eyes reflecting the hellish red glow of the blood moon overhead. Daniel spread his arms wide, his flesh rippling like boiling tar. "Welcome to Black Hollow, Mary," he crooned, "where lost girls never leave." The ground beneath me split open with a sound like tearing meat. The truth erupted from the earth. Rotting hands clawed through the soil, not just from the graveyard, but from beneath every house, every street. The entire town was a mass grave. And the neighbors? They were gathering now, their faces melting like wax, their true forms emerging. Mrs. Henderson from next door, her jaw unhinging to reveal a second mouth inside her throat. The gas station clerk, his skin sloughing off to expose pulsating tendrils. The children from the playground, their giggles rising into hyena shrieks as their limbs snapped into insectal angles. Sheriff Carter's corpse twitched at my feet, his dead lips parting. "Run." like I didn't. The women, the other Marys, formed a circle around me, their voices merging into a nightmarish hymn. One becomes many, many become one. He always wins. Daniel's bones cracked as he grew taller, his shadow swallowing the moonlight. "You were special," he whispered, a lover's confession. "You almost remembered." I raised the sheriff's revolver, not at him, at the rusted gas cans beside the shed. I fired. The explosion tore through the night, painting the world in orange and black. Daniel's howl of rage was cut short as the fire twisted, forming a vortex that sucked the screaming townsfolk inward. The other Marys smiled as they burned. "Thank you," their ashes seemed to whisper. I ran, past the melting faces, through the collapsing houses, the locket still clenched in my fist. The sheriff's truck roared to life as I peeled onto the highway, the entire town burning in my rearview mirror. 3 days later. The news called it a gas leak. A tragic accident. No survivors. I sat in a motel room, staring at the locket's inscription. "Don't forget what he did to us." But when I flipped it open, the photo had changed. Now it showed me standing behind my twin. And in the reflection of the mirror behind us, Daniel's smile. Rain pattered against the asphalt as a new girl stirred in the mud, her fingers closing around a familiar note. "Run. Now." And from the trees something watched, waiting, always waiting.